welcome back to another sexy revision session. I'm your host, Ms. Bayakem. So today we'll be reviewing the May June 2020 Sexy Biology past paper. I want to welcome back all our returning subscribers. Welcome to our new subscribers. And if you're watching our video and you haven't yet subscribed, go ahead and subscribe now, and welcome to the class. Let us continue. Question 1. Which of the following features is used to classify a group of organisms as class Insecta? So we have A, size, B, shape, C, color, D, legs. So please remember that we spoke about insects in previous past papers. So just a little reminder, insects have 3 pairs of legs, so legs here would have been the best option. They also have 2 pairs of wings, 1 pair of antennae, and 1 pair of compound eye. And remember, guys, their bodies are divided into 3 parts or 3 segments. We have the head, the thorax, and the abdomen. So if you were to think about all of those information, we'd realize that size is out of it. We cannot classify insects on size. If we're to think about the cockroach and even the grasshopper, they do have different size. And the same thing for shape. They're shaped differently and they have different colors. So the best option would have been their legs, because they should have 3 pairs of legs, which would be 6 legs in total. 2. Which of the following sampling methods is most suitable for estimating the density of mushrooms in a garden? So we spoke about this one already in a previous past paper revision, so you can go over there and watch all our videos. So the answer here would have been quadrant. Question 3. Living organisms such as plants are affected by abiotic factors which determine where they become established. Which of the following lists some of these determining factors? So we have A, parasitism, commensalism, mutualism, B, sunlight availability, soil pH, minerals, C, sediment size, predation, disease, D, deforestation, slash and burn, and shifting cultivation. So the best option here would have been B, because abiotic factors are non-living factors. We also met this one in a previous past paper. Question 4. Which of the following statements about recycling manufactured materials are true? So we have I, less energy is used in the manufacturing of new products by using the raw materials from recycled products. 2, some manufactured products can be recycled. 3, recycling of some non-biodegradable materials prevents landfill sites from filling up too quickly for a long time. So now, I know this was a mouthful. So for questions like these that are a mouthful, whenever you finish reading them, you realize that you're not retaining any information. Also, just read it again. So the question, which of the following statements about recycling manufactured materials are true? So you're looking for what as the statements that are true about recycling manufactured materials. So thinking about recycling and manufactured means that's something that can be made, that is made. So one of the first one that I realized was true was 3. Recycling of some non-biodegradable, and non-biodegradable here means that these materials, they cannot be broken down. So non-biodegradable materials prevent landfill sites from filling up too quickly for a long time. That's true. So 3 is in it, definitely. So now you realize that we would have eliminated A. So A is out of it. Alright. And then, so some manufactured products can be recycled, which is true. We don't recycle everything. And then, so I, less energy is used in manufacturing of new products by using the raw materials from recycled products. So this one is a little tricky. Let us read it again. So less energy is used in the manufacturing of new products by using the raw materials from recycled products. I am gonna say this one is not true because it would depend on the type of raw materials that you're getting and also the products that you want to create. So I cannot say that every product that we're going to be recycling to create a new product will use less energy, because it also depends on the type of product you want to use, or the type of product rather you want to make. Because if you're going to make a product that is going to need more energy, then that won't be true, even though you're using recycled materials. So the best option that I see here is 2 and 3, and that is C. All right. So I cannot say less energy, because even though it's recycled, you have to think about the fact that it depends on the type of products that you want to make, even though you're using the recycled products. Question 5. So question 5 is a repeat question. Items 5 refers to the following diagram of a food web. So we have the diagram. So trophic level 1 is represented by the phytoplankton. So it's C. Question 6. A farmer notices pink mealybugs in his garden. He is advised to introduce the ladybird beetle to control the mealybugs. The type of relationship between the mealybug and the ladybird beetle is described as, so we have A, commensalism, B, predator-prey relationship, C, mutualism, D, parasitism. So now let us analyze the question, and that was a mouthful. So a farmer notices pink mealybugs in his garden. So he's seen these bugs in the garden. He's advised to introduce the ladybird beetle to control the mealybugs. So somebody told him to get some ladybird beetle to help to control the mealybugs. I remember in his garden he would have his vegetable or his fruit. So the mealybugs probably are, causing a havoc. So they're probably eating his vegetables. So somebody told him to get the ladybird beetle, to help to control it, which would, to eat the mealybugs, right? So now the type of relationship between the mealybug and the ladybird beetle is, so commensalism. So commensalism, a relationship in which one organism benefits and the other does not. So we can keep that for now. Predator-prey relationship, as we know, we would have a predator, somebody who's eating another organism, and the prey, the organism who gets eaten. Mutualism is out of it because both of them have to benefit, and the mealybug is not exactly benefiting from the ladybird beetle relationship. So that's definitely out of it. Then parasitism now. We don't have any parasites here, don't have any hosts, so that's out of it. So now our best options are commensalism, because one organism is benefiting, which is the ladybird beetle, because it's getting food, while the other is not, which is the mealybug. So we have to choose the best option here. So because we're talking about the farmer noticing this in the garden, and we spoke about the mealybug actually eating, the vegetables or whatever he has in his garden, which would have represented the plant, right? So the mealybugs is eating that. Somebody told him to get the ladybird beetle, which would help to control the mealybugs, help to, eat them. So the best option here to describe the type of relationship would have been a predator-prey relationship. Because if you realize, I outlined a food chain there. We have the plants, then we have the mealybugs, then the ladybird eating it. So the best relationship here would have been the mealybug, because if the lady beetle wants to control it, that means it has to eat it, right? So it's the predator-prey relationship. That's the best option here. Question 7. Item 7 refers to the following food chain. As usual, we move to the question. The organisms which receive the most and least energy respectively in the food chain are the... So we're looking for the organism that gets the most and the least energy. So we have phytoplankton, we have a krill, we have herring, and we have bass. So the organism that gets the most energy, they're usually at the front of the food chain. So the phytoplankton here will get the most energy because it is getting their energy directly from the sun. And then the bass, which is the organism at the last part of the food chain, they'll get the least amount of energy. So we're looking for phytoplankton and bass. So that is looking like B. So the best option here would be B. So phytoplankton, that gets the most, and bass, that gets the least. And that's why it's B and not C. Because if it was C, you would be telling them that the bass gets the most energy and then the phytoplankton gets the least. And that is not true. The phytoplankton gets the most energy because it's getting their energy from the sun, and then the bass is getting the least amount of energy. So question 8. Items 8 refers to the following diagram, which shows energy flow through an ecosystem. So the energy flow is not 100% efficient because energy is. So as usual, look at the diagram, and this is also a repeated question. So we have the sun, we have the producers, they're losing heat. Some energy is moving on to a consumer. The consumer is also losing heat. Some energy is moving on to decomposers. Decomposers are also losing heat. And then nutrients, inorganic nutrients, are coming back. And it's going all the way back to the producer. So the energy flow is not 100% efficient because energy is. So we have A, linear, moving from one organism to the next. B, circular, moving in and out of organism. C, recycled from plants to the atmosphere. And then D, lost through respiration and excretion. So the best option here is lost through respiration and excretion. And that's why we're saying that the energy flow is not 100% efficient, because energy gets lost. As you can see, the heat, remember, heat is energy, is a form of energy. So heat is being lost. And this is how the energy, the heat, is being lost, either through respiration or excretion. Question 9. The greatest threat to the survival of coral reefs is, so we have A, decreased nitrogen levels. B, increased dissolved oxygen. C, decreased greenhouse gases. D, increased ocean temperatures. So now let us analyze this. So decreased nitrogen levels. If you decrease the nitrogen levels, that's a good thing. So that's out of it. B, increased dissolved oxygen. So if you increase the oxygen content in the ocean, in the coral reef area, then that's a good thing. So that's out of it. Remember, we have animals that respire, that need oxygen to respire. So that's a good thing. Then C, decrease greenhouse gases. You know, if you decrease the greenhouse gases, then that's the good thing. So now D, increase ocean temperature. So this would have been the greatest threat, the increased ocean temperature. Question 10. Which of the following are effects of pollutants on coral reefs in the Caribbean? So I, less reef fish. 2, more branching corals. 3, increase in microalgae and seagrass growth. So we're trying to find out which of the following are going to be an effect of the coral reef being polluted. So pollutants on coral reef, yes. So let us see, less reef fish, that is true. So I is definitely in there, so we know that C is out of it. All right, 2, more branching corals. So more branching corals would be out of it, because if we're talking about how pollutants act on the coral, so pollutants are going to damage the corals and they can eventually kill the coral. So I doubt the coral will be able to survive and branch because the pollutants will smother the corals. So 2 is out of it. And then 3, increase in microalgae and seagrass growth. This is definitely true. The pollutants cause algae to grow. So the best option here would have been I and 3, which is B. Question 11. Items 11 refers to the following diagram of human population size over a period of time. So as usual, move to the question. Which of the following factors most likely account for the change in population size from, this is a repeat question, so it usually states from 1980 to 1989. Sorry about the cutoff. So the best option would have been to look now at the graph because it's from 1980 to 1989. So from this year to this year. So as I said, this is a repeat question, so you can actually check out our 2017 CXC biology past paper or the 2016. I'm pretty sure it's on either one. I'm not sure which one, but it's there. So just go over, watch the video, and you will get to see the actual question. So now the options are increased contraceptive use, 2, epidemic of a deadly disease, 3, decrease in fatal crime. So if you were to look at 1980 to 1981, you realize 89, you realize that there's a decrease. So the population is decreasing. So we have to figure out, why is the population decreasing? So we have increase in contraceptive use. We know that increase in contraceptive will decrease the population size, yes. Epidemic of deadly disease, definitely true. And then 3, decrease in fatal crimes. Decrease in fatal crimes, rather. So if there is a decrease in fatal crime, then guess what? The population will increase if there's a decrease in fatal crimes. So we know that definitely 2, epidemic of deadly disease will definitely cause the population size to decrease. Then increase in contraceptive use will cause the population size to increase. So the best option here would have been A. Question 11. Items 11 refers to the following diagram of a human population size over a period of time. So this is a diagram. So which of the following factors most likely account for the change in population size from 1980 to 1989? So guys, I have 2 copies of the paper, and the first one that I have, as you can see, it's a little bit blurry. And then the next one that we're actually working with, it's not blurry, but we're actually missing the 1980 there, all right? So it's 1980 to 1989. Just so you guys can see, it's the same paper. This is the same thing. Which of the following are effects of pollutants on coral reef in the Caribbean? So you can see it's the same paper that we're using. All right, so it's the same paper. It's just that this one wasn't taken good and the other one was not taken good anyways, but at least it's a little bit better because we can actually make out the words. But like I said, 1980 is missing, so I just showed you here so you can see what was on the paper. So we're going back. So as I said, 1980, and as you can see, it's the same thing, the same question that I just read. If you could have made out what was on that one. All right, so still on this question, so we're staying from 1980 to 1989. So as you can see, slightly increase, but it's mainly a decrease from 1980 to 1989. So now we have to think about which would be the best option for this decrease. So we have I, increase in contraceptive use. So increase in contraceptive use, contraception, yes, it will decrease the population. So that's a good one. Epidemic of deadly disease, yes, an epidemic of deadly disease will definitely decrease the population. And then 3, decrease in fatal crimes. So if you decrease fatal crimes, then guess what? You're increasing the population. So the best option here would have been A, 1 and 2. Moving on to question 12. When compared to a cheek cell, a muscle cell contains more. So this is a question that is repeated all the time, more mitochondria. So question 13, sorry for your eyes being dazzled, but which of the following organelles is directly involved in photosynthesis? So we have A, nucleus, B, cytoplasm, C, chloroplast, D, mitochondrion. So the one that is directly involved is definitely the chloroplast. Question 14. Items 14 refers to the following apparatus set up as shown below. So we have potato, we have distilled water, and we have the Petri dish. So what can be done to cause the level of solution in the Petri dish to rise after 20 minutes? So we're trying to find out what can be done to it to allow the solution in the Petri dish to rise after 20 minutes. That means that we're going to have more solution in the Petri dish. So we have A, add 5 grams of salt to distilled water in the potato only. B, add 5 grams of salt to the distilled water in the Petri dish only. C, add 5 grams of salt to the distilled water in both the Petri dish and both the potato. So we're gonna, and then D, add 0 grams of salt of distilled water in both the Petri dish and the potato. So if we want to get more water in the Petri dish, so we want water to move from inside the potato to the outside to the Petri dish, and for that to happen, then guess what, we must have more water in the potato for it to move, and that means we need to have less water in the Petri dish. Hence the Petri dish should contain more solution. So hence the answer would be B, add 5 grams of salt to the distilled water in the Petri dish only, because the Petri dish solution should contain solute, more solute, so water can move from its higher concentration, which would have been in the potato, to its lower concentration, which is going to be in the Petri dish. Question 15. A mature plant cell is different from a mature animal cell because the mature plant cell has, so we have A, mitochondria, B, a cell membrane, C, a large permanent vacuole, D, a large nucleus suspended in the cytoplasm. So the best option is a plant cell has a large permanent vacuole, which is C. 16. Which of the following graphs shows the effect of temperature on an enzyme-controlled reaction? So let me scroll down a little so we can see the graphs. Oopsie. Now I'm gonna zoom in so we can see the graph that is on D. So we're talking about an enzyme control reaction. So that means we must have a optic temperature. All right. So let me just draw a graph. So that means our graph must look something like this, and we must have an optic temperature. And based on what we're seeing there, this should be a little straighter. But based on what we're seeing there, guys, the optic temperature must be between 30 here and 40. And it has to be a graph looking like this. Let me see if I can make it out better. These are enzyme control graph, something like that. So we know A is out of it. Definitely not. B is also out of it. C would be out of it because C is the opposite of what we're looking for, something like that. So the best option here would have been D, and our optimum, so my hands are not straight, but our optimum temperature here might be 35. So this would be 30, then roughly 35. if I were to draw it straight here. So now the best option, as I was saying, has to be D, because that's how an enzyme control reaction is looking. That's the kind of graph that we look for. Show you again. These are the kind of graph for enzyme control reaction. So now 17, the role of enzyme. So the role of an enzyme is best described as which molecule. So we have A, increases the rate of chemical reaction. B, decreases the rate of chemical reaction. C, increases the rate of a chemical reaction but remains unchanged at the end of the reaction. D, decreases the rate of chemical reaction but remains unchanged at the end of the reaction. So the best option here would have been C. Question 18. Which of items 18 refers to the following longitudinal section of a tooth? And then the question, which region of the tooth contains a large number of blood vessels and nerves? So the region is I. Why did I say I? The region is 3, which is C. So now I is the enamel, 2 is the dentine, trying to make a D, and then 3 is the pulp cavity, and then the pulp cavity normally contains the blood vessels. It's not working out. I was trying to write, but it's not working out. So 3, which is the pulp cavity, normally contains the blood vessels. And then 4 here would have been the point that is attached to the gum. So the teeth is already embedded in the gum. So the best option here would have been 3. Question 19. Items 19 refers to the following diagram, which represents a metabolic process carried out in plants. So the food produced is, so this is a repeated question. If you look at the process, you realize that photosynthesis is happening, so hence the food produced is gonna be glucose. 20. Autotrophic organisms derive their nutrition from, so we have A, water only, B, complex organic substance only, C, simple inorganic substance only, D, both inorganic and organic substances. So the best option here is C, simple inorganic substances. Because if you were to think about autotrophic nutrition, autotrophs, these are usually plants, these are organisms that make their own food. And the substances that they use to make their own food, if we look at this, they use carbon, which are simple inorganic substances. They use carbon dioxide. They're inorganic substances, right? Carbon, oxygen, they're inorganic. These substances, they do not have any COH bond or CHO bond, and hence they're inorganic. So that's why that's the best option. Question 21. A 50-year-old male advised by his doctor to pay special attention to the amount of salt in his diet. He probably has a high chance of developing, so we have A, obesity, B, diabetes, C, hypertension, D, sickle cell anemia, and the best option here would have been hypertension, which is high blood pressure. So question 22. Items 22 refers to the following diagram of the respiratory system. Which of the labeled parts represent the rib? So the rib would have been 2. This is also a repeated question. 23. Items 23 refers to the following equation, which shows the oxidation of glucose in cells, which is just the breakdown of glucose in cells to give us energy, which is simply respiration. The energy released from the process above is, so we have A converted to ADP, B converted to ATP, C stored in high energy bond in ADP, D stored in high energy bond in ATP. So now, for this one, they're asking us what happens to the energy. So the energy is not converted to ADP, but the energy goes to form ATP, which is a high energy molecule. And remember, the energy itself is actually stored in the bond. So if you were to think about one adenine molecule, 3 phosphates, so 1 phosphate here, 1 phosphate here, and another phosphate here. This is the ATP molecule. But this adenosine, which is the adenine, the A, TP means 3 phosphate, 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here. So to get energy, guys, remember, if we're trying to get energy, we have to lose a phosphate. That means a phosphate bond has to be broken, right? So if the phosphate bond is broken, so this phosphate molecule that I circled is going to come off. So the bonds are going to be broken. So now we're going to have the same adenine molecule, but this time is going to have 2 phosphate. And this is how we get ADP, right? 2 phosphate plus this phosphate that came off, and we call it pi. Right? This phosphate. So what I'm trying to show you is that to get energy, the bonds have to break. So even though we normally say it's converted to ATP, but it's converted to the high energy bond in the ATP molecule. So the best option here is D, and this is why D is the best option, because to get energy, the bonds have to break. The phosphate bond to the adenine molecule has to break. Question 24. So it's a little bit blurry. Well, it's a lot blurry. But don't worry, I got you. Question 24. So it's a lot blurry, but like I said, I'm working from 2 papers, guys. So moving over. So let me try to zoom this up a little bit. So question 24. Which of the following features does not enhance a leaf's ability to absorb solar energy? So we're looking for a feature that does not help a leaf to absorb any sunlight, any solar energy. So we have A, numerous chloroplasts in the palisade cells. B, presence of a vascular bundle. C, transparent cuticle. D, large surface area. So now, having numerous chloroplasts in the palisade cells definitely is going to assist in absorbing sunlight energy. Because remember, the chlorophyll in the chloroplast traps the sunlight energy. So having more in the palisade cells, which is one of the uppermost cells that is closer to the top and closer to be exposed to sunlight. So that's okay. That's not the answer. B, presence of a vascular bundle. So the presence of the vascular bundle, remember the vascular bundle contains the xylem and the phloem, which helps to transport water, minerals, and food. All right. So looking at this is definitely the answer, because it has nothing to do with absorbing solar energy. Having transparent cuticle, it does allow, because if it's transparent, that means that the sunlight can travel through to enter the palisade cells, or the cells that contains the chlorophyll. So the chlorophyll rather can absorb more energy. So that's a good thing. D is definitely out of it. We need a large surface area to volume ratio so that more sunlight can be absorbed by the leaf. So that's why B would have been the best option, because the vascular bundle has nothing to do with sunlight energy being absorbed. It's about transporting the food that will be made when the sunlight energy becomes absorbed. All right. So 25. Which of the following correctly matches the stored nutrients to their storage organ? This is a repeat question. So we're looking for the nutrients and the storage organ. So we have roots, A, proteins, fruits, glucose, liver, fats. All right. Then roots, carbohydrates, fruits, sucrose, liver, glucose. Then C, fats for the roots, fruits, glucose, liver, glycogen. And then D, roots, carbohydrates, fruits, sucrose, liver, glycogen. So the best option here would have been D, carbohydrates, sucrose, and glycogen. So if you think about it, you don't want to be storing, guys, fats in your liver, right? And you don't want to be storing sugar itself in your liver, but you know that extra glucose, extra food, they're converted to glycogen. For the fruits now, they are stored in sucrose, and then in the roots is carbohydrate. So 26. Which of the following matches the gaseous exchange structures to the organism? So we have human, fish, and plants. So this is a repeated question. So we're looking for the gaseous exchange. And A, alveoli, gill filament, large leaf. B, trachea, mouth, stem. C, alveoli, gill rakers, young leaf. D, trachea, gill bars, and spongy mesophyll. So if we're talking about the respiratory structures, definitely A. For the humans, we know that the alveoli would have been the gaseous exchange organ, or the organ for gaseous exchange. Then for the fish, the gill filament is definitely their gaseous exchange surface or organ. And in the plants, definitely the leaves. And even better, the large leaves. Question 27. The essential vitamin and mineral ions required for blood clotting in humans are, this is also a repeated question, so we're looking for a vitamin and a mineral. So we have A, vitamin C and potassium, B, vitamin B and sodium, C, vitamin A and magnesium, D, vitamin K and calcium. So the best option here is vitamin A and calcium. Question 28. Which of the following best identifies some of the transport substances in animals? So we have amino acids, hormones, and sucrose. So we're looking for transport substances. So which one identifies transport substances in animals? So everything except sucrose. Not in animals, but in plants. So we have I and 2, which is A. 29. An ammonia obtains all the oxygen it needs by diffusion via its cell membrane, while a human needs to have special respiratory surface for this purpose. The best reason for this difference is that A, human requires a larger volume of oxygen. B, oxygen cannot pass through the skin of humans. C, an ammonia does not require much oxygen. D, a human surface area to volume ratio is too small for diffusion to be effective, and this is the option. So now 30. In the transport of solutes in the phloem, the source is defined as the area of the plant where, so we have A, water is loaded into the phloem. B, water is taken out of the phloem. C, sucrose is loaded into the phloem. D, sucrose is taken out of the phloem. So if we're talking about the source, then it has to be C, sucrose is loaded into the phloem. So we're at the end of another video. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you next time when we review part 2 of the May-June 2020 CXC biology past paper.